welcome to Weekend Project. I'm Laura Lynn of the Mama Pop Quilt Shop, and we're very happy to see you here today. Today, I'm finally making a cover for Gnomey. I've had Gnomey for 3 years now, and he did come with a cover, but it was without the embroidery attachment. So I always have the embroidery attachment on. I'm always using it either to, whip up little tags or, I'm always using it, especially for embroidering quilts and labeling quilts and stuff. So I leave it on, and I wanted something to be able to cover. Not that I really am off of it long enough to cover, but, it needs a pretty disguise. So I had this cute little 5 square charm pack, actually 2 of them, that was gifted to me by a friend, and I thought what a beautiful way is to turn it into something to cover my sewing machine. So I pieced it all together, and then I quilted it up on the long arm with the very nice little threads and needle, like the spool of thread, and with the needle, and it goes all over the place with a very nice purple thread. And stitch out, and then that was my measurement from here to here, okay? And that's what I did on this, but you could easily do this or quilt it on your domestic by either just using straight lines, wavy lines, cross hatching, or go crazy with the free motion and get all your swirls and loops and whatever you want to do. You could even just make it a nice whole cloth sort of feature and quilt all sorts of different fun things on it. Why not, right? It's your cover. And then I took my measurement from here to here, which is approximately 15 to 16 inches, because I have a little bit on this side of my machine. It kind of juts out a little bit because of the screen. So I needed to make sure I was measuring the widest part to the widest part on my machine, not, forgetting one side is maybe a little bit wider than the other. So I did for the widest part, and then I took my measurement from the bottom here all the way across the top to the bottom there. So I'm making it like a little panel piece on the one side, panel piece on the other, or a section piece just like this. And you can leave yours squared. I put mine just a little bit of a curve on it because I like it to be almost looks like a little big oven, or a little big toaster I'll cover. And why not? Why not? And then I just did a little bit of sort of cross hatching on the 2 end pieces here, okay? And I've just pinned it. I went from the bottom and went around, and this should fit my machine quite nicely. It's actually got my thread on the other side. I meant to go show it this way. So, and this should sit right over there. See, it comes right down to the bottom and there. So the ideal way for this to be, if you wanted it, you could easily tuck these seams into the inside and nobody'd see it but you. I'm doing it to the wrong sides together like this, and I'm going to bind it. I'm just going to bind it and add a little bit of extra color. So to save me getting some raw ends down here, I'm going to do this side first, the round parts first on the outside, the side bits, and then do the whole bottom. And that is going to enclose these ones that we end up cutting off on the bottom here for the binding, okay? Isn't that cute? It's gonna be so pretty. You can make a little cat house with it. I mean, just think of it. How many ideas you can come up with. And if you don't need a cover, then do the same design idea similar and make yourself a big bag, a big tote. You know what I mean? Some of you taking to guild meetings or off to the library or just filling it for stuff for the grandkids, that's their play basket, or, think about it. You got lots of ideas. All right, so let's pin this last part on here, and then I'm going to start putting my binding on. I'm so excited. So what I did, yes, again, I went measurements from here, the width of it, and then the height of it, and then just did with my measuring tape, I just kind of went up and over and around, and that's how I made it. And of course, I made it bigger than what I needed so I can cut it to fit, right? Okay. So let's do this. And what I was doing, I'd go and I'd fold it and find the middle of this, your little side part. And I put a little pin, and then I went and folded this in half and found its halfway part and put a little pin. And then I lined those 2 pins up, and I'd take this one corner down here, because we know it's got to come all the way around, and put it right down here at the bottom. And you can use your clips. I've managed to put all my clips in with our Weave a Bee project for the live stream. And you'll see that tomorrow. So I'm using the pins. I don't want to unclip any of my pieces that I've already got all cut up and ready to go. That's if we don't do the mystery. Trying to get caught up on the mystery one. All right, and then what you do is you ease the fabric to go in the space in between, okay? And then that gives your nice big curved part. Now, if you needed something to design for your KitchenAid, you want a cover for your KitchenAid, or something for your coffee maker when you're not home, or if you have the certain appliances you kind of rather hide instead of being visual, you can make very much the same similar principle by doing those measurements to cover. So, okay. And then just ease the fabric, especially as you're coming around to the corners. I'm going to pin it. And then we're going to have to put the binding on. And you can either sew the one side of the binding, okay, just do like as an example here, okay. So one side of the binding and then flip over and sew the other, or you can just flip over and hand stitch. Depends on the look that you want, what's the finish that you would like. And you don't even have, like I said, you don't even have to do this. You could just pin it with the two, right sides together and just put a seam allowance all the way around and it's done. But I like to add a little bit extra. Because I can. Why not? Okay. Oops. Got stuff dropping on my foot. It has been very bitter, bitter cold out here. So, but the sun has been shining. This, unfortunately, they go together hand in hand. Seems like it's really, really cold out. It's sunny. At least the sun is trying to shine through. All right, here's our little halfway point at the top here. Want to make sure we're getting those together. So take the one that I had on the inside and then move it to the outside to pin those two. And then you just need to ease it up and around this edge, around this corner. You could square it up. I did a little curve because I liked the way it looked. But that's completely your choice. There we go, and just put as many pins as you need to get that sewn around. And if you need to sew it first before you attach the binding to make sure it's all together and you're not dealing with any pins, then go ahead. Do what you gotta do. But those little clips, those little tiny clips would be pretty handy at this, I would think. Okay, so I'm just pinning. I'm just trying to ease in a little bit of fabric here between the spots. E and B sort of thing. Okay, there we go. So just turn around just to show you. So I just pinned, and I pinned onto the inside here, so it's easier for me to maneuver it as I'm going around the machine instead of trying to go on the, you can choose whichever side you're going to pin on, whatever makes you happy. And then at that point, make sure you're adding your binding as you're going, and then you can just flip and stitch it down. And this is going to be pretty. And then go all the way. I do the side first, like I said, and that way it encloses your raw edges when you're coming down to the bottom by doing the last one all the way around. And I chose a variety of, I have different colors here. I've got like 3 or 4, sorry, and one fell off the floor. Different little colors here that I'm going to play with because this is very colorful, so why not? All right, so let's do some sewing. And I think I picked the brown and the gold for the sides, and then these shades of bluesy bits we're going to go around for the bottom because I knew 2 probably wasn't going to do it, so we'll have to make 3 and just make it a little scrappy. Okay. All right, so to make sure I'm just going to keep in line with where I want to go, I'll make sure my binding is just a little bit longer so it's nice and even when we go and trim it around. And I'm just taking out my original pin and pinning the binding down to go all the way around the edge. And that gives us a nice good section to work with, okay? Nice good section to work with as we're sewing, okay? And I just folded my binding in half. It's a 2.5, folded in half with the pressed with the iron, and that gives you a nice good flat edge to sew all the way around, okay, when you're getting your 2 pieces, because you have to have your 2 pieces there for doing when you're binding. Okay. Or if you had a binding foot, that might work it too. But if you're trying to figure out how to do binding and just want to have a small project, this is a good one to start with. Make something for your house. Great gift to give somebody. If you know they have a machine, maybe even similar in size to yours, you can make them a nice little cover. You can put a couple of pockets, and maybe on the side here to put the scissors and your rulers and stuff like that. And, it's going to sit over the machine, so it could take a little bit of weight if you wanted to stuff some stuff in there in the pockets, or make some pockets. So, all right, just pinning it around. So before we got our magazine that that their little quilt shop is in. It's the Quilters Connection, Winter 2018-2019, and we're on page 56 and 57, the Mom and Pop Quilt Shop. Yes, we were thrilled. We finally got them in the mail. I thank the Postal Service for holding that one up. All right, now, I was going to say, where's the pen? I could feel it, but I could not see it. All right, so that gives me all the way around, and that's one with the fabric. Right, so this is the other salvage, this is the other salvage. So, you know, you're gonna need about, 30 inches to go around, because you think this is 15, and this was about approximately 15 to 16. You gotta make yourself all the way around from edge to edge, right? So, all right, so that's the one. And sew it down. I think that's gonna look pretty. It's gonna bring out some of those little browns on this side. Very nice. I haven't decided whether I was gonna hand stitch it or not though, or machine it. We'll see. I'll get it all on first, and then I'll figure it out. All right. Hey, Mr. Magoo. Hi. He wanted to go out, but I opened up the door and he got one little gasp of cold air and he was running. He's like, forget that, man. Yep, it's minus 18 with the wind chill. So, at least what it has been for the past little bit. Okay, and just take your time. This is actually probably time to use your walking foot. I didn't change it from my 1/4 inch foot, so bad for me, I apologize. But this would be a great project for your walking foot. Just take your time, make it away around the edge. If you feel you have a bit of too much bulk, you could do a little clipping to ease that bulk, right? I just think this makes a nice little pretty cover, and you've customized it and you've made it special because it covers your machine. You know, I think I'd like to make one for Walt. He's, that's big. I have to take some measurements on him. We're talking like 2-3 feet by, that'd be quite the cover. Yeah, and it won't take too long. So you got a little, a little pack you really like, or just some scraps. You have a favorite scrappy feel and just want that sort of, or you got pink and black together and make an awesome cover. I mean, we made a cover for the AccuQuilt cutter a couple of years ago, just after we got it, and I felt it needed a cover because it wasn't being used all the time, right? And I didn't want to get too dusty. It's kind of important, and it's kind of expensive, so we needed to make a cover for it. And my girlfriend noticed I used her leftover curtain hang fabric to make it. I really liked it. She said I could do whatever I wanted with the leftovers. It's got hooked up on a little string there. Okay, now come all the way down, and then once you're down all the way to the end here, you could give it a little cut. Okay. Do a little back stitch, make sure it stays. Don't want your work to come undone. Okay. All right, now take our nice good sharp scissors, and we're just going to trim that off. Okay. Just probably a little bit longer than it needs to be, so that when we fold over and we go and sew this down, it's that raw edge is going to get enclosed in the one that we put around the bottom. Okay. So let me just fold this over and roll it. Make sure you've got everybody in the pool first. Check a look to make sure you have everybody. Everybody's there. All the layers. And then just do a little tuck over. And you can pin it, you can clip it if you haven't decided what you want to do yet. I think I would like to kind of hand stitch, so I think I might come down here and just machine stitch this up just a little bit so I can keep that wrapped around so when I go and do the bottom. So I think I'm going to hand stitch a little bit of it. I think I just add that extra little touch, I don't really want all those seams to be seen, or all the stitches to be seen. So I'm just going to hold this in place with a few stitches. There we go. And same with the other side. Just fold it over. Get it so it's wrapped those raw edges. and just do a couple little stitches to hold it in place. Yeah, I think I'd like to do that. That's my choice. There we go. Okay, and then we'll do it to the other side. And I picked the goldy colored for that one. Okay, and then the same thing, just going to take the salvage edge, or just below the salvage edge here, let it hang off a little bit, and then just pin it so it fits all the way around. Okay, oops, got hooked up there. See, there the clips would be nice. And if you looked outside right now, you'd see it is snowing like crazy, but super sunny. It's crazy out, I tell ya. We call it the vortex at Hillsburg because sometimes we have the craziest weather than even just 5 minutes away from here. So, yeah, we call it the vortex. People will text me and ask me, how's the vortex? And even if you go up and over a hill and it drops like 4 degrees and it goes from sunny conditions to blizzard conditions in like 3 seconds flat. All right, I'm just pinning that all the way around. Sorry, it's kind of hard for you to see. I know, I apologize. You can't even see it all. Just lining it up, that raw edge of the binding, all the way to the top. Okay, and then just scoot your fabric. Try and get it to fit. I mean, if you have to do a little trimming, then do some trimming. Around. So where's the pin? Oh, it got lost. It got lost. Just trying to form it around that curve. Try and make it pleasing. You don't want any big folds or tucks or anything like that. Because I said you can always trim it to fit. Always trim to fit and try and add fabric, and it's not gonna work, right? You can't add when it's already quilted and halfway put together. All right, so there we go. There's our other side, all pinned around. And then we're just going to do the same thing. Just going to stitch down, and then I'm going to fold over on the edge here, and then we're just going to go around the bottom. Oh, look, it's so cute. I could see making a little cat house or something like that. Maybe even leaving a door open here, sort of thing. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, jelly beans? Let's do this one. Try not to get poked too many times. Back stitch at the end. This is my favorite warm sweater, so you may see it a lot this winter. I apologize. But it's my favorite warm sweater. Thing is, you have to wear another layer underneath of it, or it makes my arms itchy for some particular reason. The crack of my elbow. Okay, foot up. Making sure you're shifting your fabric. And it's bulk. I've got that extra thick batting in here, so yours may not be as crazy as mine, but this also is a great way to use those extra bits of batting that you've been hanging around, you don't know what to do with. Put layers and layers and layers and layers and layers, and then just quilt it like crazy. No one's gonna know, and you've used up something that you didn't want to throw out in the first place. So I've got bags of it. I've been trying to think of ideas to use up all sorts of bits and bobs in projects, right? I mean, I made lots of animal shelter beds, and I've got lots of batting for that as well. It's like this thicker stuff. So, and then it's all the leftover bits from long run projects. I've offered them up to the school and stuff like that, but they haven't actually taken me on my offer yet. It's a little tight to fit that around there. Always stop with your needle down. Whenever you're doing any shifting, flipping, flopping, anything like that, maneuvering, wrangling, wrestling. But seems half the time, I tell you. It's fabric wrestling. It's a new Olympic sport. all the way down to the end and do a little back stitch. And then we'll cut that excess off. My scissors, there we go. We'll leave it a little long. So then when we fold it over, and we're just going to tuck that raw edge right in with the binding, like do a little couple of tack stitches on either side of this golden binding that we just sewed on. And then we'll line up our bottom, because we want to seal that up too. We don't want to leave this all raw. And why not use the mix of fabrics that you have going on? No one says it all has to be the same. Okay, we're folding it over, just like that. Okay, and then just tacking it down. Hopefully you saw that in the small camera. Okay, now to take the blues I got going on here, because I know it's going to take more than one. It's cute, even like a laundry bag. That'd be awesome. Toy collector. Yeah, so that'll just come and flip up over here and look spiffy. Very, very pretty. All right, so round for the bottom. You can start at one side or start in the middle. It doesn't really matter. I think I actually had to link them first. That's what I didn't do. Oopsies. Okay, well, I really like that one, but I kind of, I don't know. We'll do. We'll link them up first. We didn't link them. I just pressed them all. Alright, so we're just going to flip those open. And to link up binding, so it gives you a nice angled instead of a straight butted cut, you want to kind of flip them side by side like that. Okay? And then you're going to sew down on the angle from one corner to the other. Okay? And you can pin this if you like. And of course, I'm always out for the other extra half-square triangle. So we'll do that. And then cut. My thread was so light I couldn't see it on the fabric. Alright, and let's do this one. Because I'll use this one first. I'll do the same. The reason I had the other one up a little higher was because I didn't want to use the salvage of it. It has those tiny little dots. Sometimes you can hide it in the binding, but sometimes you can't if there's a print on it. This happens to be the same color, so it'll be okay. Sometimes it gives you the place of description, usually, or that little white bits. We don't know those. Not in our project. Chop that off. Alright, now let's put that around the bottom. Put this in my bucket. I'm going to get into that bucket one day, I tell you. I'm going to get in there. Alright, so let's line this up here. Just on 1 inch, it doesn't matter. I'm going to stitch it on the front and then flip to the back, and then that's when I'm going to be able to hand stitch it down a nice and pretty like, so you don't see any stitches at all. Isn't that going to be lovely? It's going to be gorgeous. All right, let's just this way so I get it right. You want to leave a little bit so we can overlap. If your machine cover is small enough, you may want to take your little loop tray off here, your little slide tray, and be able to loop your cover around. Okay, don't fight if you don't absolutely have to. Make it work in your favor. And the reason that's why we bound those little edges here, so when I come across here, I'm sealing it all up nice and cute. So you might want to push them flat or stick it to one side or the other, you know, whichever makes you happy. I'm trying to squish it flat. Maybe. It may not work. Nope. Wants to lay to one side or the other. Yeah, that really cute stitch out on Walt and his software with the spool and the thread, and I really like it. And I put it on a bag as a gift for some friends. Made them a bag and it had that on there, so hopefully they liked it. away, but I wasn't sure if I'd get all the way around. So you see how those two lovely come together with that little angled piecing? And then when you go to sew it, it has a bit more ease through it as you're going instead of having like 5 little seams in one spot because you folded it over. And it just looks prettier. All right, make sure if they're leaning in, both are leaning in. I don't want one looking weird and the other one not the same. So let's make it the same as we can all the way. Okay, almost there. And we'll do that little binding on the edge as well, so you can see how it gets a nice smooth piece all the way. Come just to the edge of this. How did I fold that one? That one went to the end as well. Okay, just making sure. Make sure you keep things consistent if you can. Okay. All right, and then this is where these two are going to loop over here. Let's just get past that little lump. Okay, and we're going to cut. Okay, so here's our two edges. I would like them to meet more approximately into the middle of this outside piece that I have here, little panel piece there. So that's kind of right in the middle-ish around here, like, you know, it's close to thereof. Let's not be too picky, okay? So, well, actually, I didn't even need the second blue. Well, that's all right. Better to know than not know. Okay, we already know this is 2.5, right? So we can take that 2.5 and we can put it pretty close to where we were hoping to have these guys loop over. Okay, so we'll put it right there. And I'm going to take, laying this one flat and laying this one flat across it. Line it up so I have my 2.5 mark, and then I'm going to go and cut. I'm going to cut this one, just from the scissors. There we go. Move this up here so you can see it a bit better, okay? Here, making sure it's nice and even across. I'm not telling you, I actually just pulled that for a second. I didn't mean to. I was just trying to make sure it was nice and straight. But don't tug it so it's stress the fabric at all. And you just want to come in and cut that bottom part. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to cut this top part because I don't need that part either. All I need is these two parts. And once we move them and shift them just like we did the other side, or when we were doing the binding, and we just sew across from corner to corner. You have to give yourself a little bit of fabric to play with. So if you have to, oops, you better look for that one later. If you have to seam rip a few seams there, then go for it and do it. Okay. I think we might be all right. Nope, you know what? We're not. So where? How do I put it away? We'll probably put it too far away. Well, let's take a couple of these little stitches out here, about maybe 1.5 inches of stitches. Okay, there we go. Just gave me a little bit more fabric to work with. Don't, like I said, don't fight with it. Make it work for you by thinking about what you have to do and how to get there. Okay. So you can resew those stitches. It's not the end of the world, right? And it won't be the end of the project. And then just sew in a nice angle from corner to corner. And this is where you can either trim it off right there, or I try to utilize that little extra bit of fabric, because you have to trim it anyways. So one of these days I'm going to do something with all my little half square triangles. Been working on the bucket for I think 2 years now. Coming up on 2 years. There we go. That's cute. Someday I'm going to make something. And then when you lay this flat, it should fit the whole piece. See? And it's just going to line up nice and even. You're just going to sew from one end to the other. Now you can press that if you want. It's not really going to matter at this point. So we'll just get it under the machine and sew it. And then you know what I'm going to do with the rest. I'm going to hand stitch it. That pretty much is the sewing machine cover. Quilted sewing machine cover. Okay, ease that fabric. Probably stretched it a little bit as I was trying to play with it there. There we go. And now we can trim off these little guys because we don't want that extra bulk getting up under here, right? We don't want that extra bulk under there. So we can trim those guys up. So there's a little edge. Rather have them included than be getting missed. So there we go. Awesome. That's our beautiful cover. Love it. Yeah, and then I'm just gonna hand sew. I'll just hand sew these all up. Little needle, little thread. It's gonna look beautiful. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing. And don't forget to check us out. Oops, I'm gonna sell a bit there. I'll go back and sew that. Check us out on our live stream tomorrow. And yeah, have yourself a great day. Okay, take care, everybody. I gotta find my seam ripper. Big hugs. Bye.